accomplish here in Cameron County. My name is John Chambers. I'm formerly the Chief of Police in Indian Lake. I've been here for 10 years. I'm originally from West Texas. I've served 26 years in law enforcement. I started as a security guard and worked my way up through the prison system, the state prison system, a jailer, a police officer, investigator, constable, and finally a chief of police, which I've served as totally 15 years as a chief of police, 10 years here in the Valley. I bring with my extensive experience in law enforcement from all aspects, not just a certain area. I wasn't just an investigator. I've done it all, so I understand a little bit about the plight that everybody goes through. I even also worked in a juvenile private prison in Bron, Polk County detention center there, so I have some experience with the youth as well. I would much rather deal with adult violators than juvenile violators, that's for sure. I've had some bad experiences with them. But anyway, I believe it's time for a real change in Cameron County. I represent someone who's not part of the clique. I'm not part of the existing power of the be here in Cameron County. I get along well with everybody, I work well with everybody, but everyone knows that I'm going to do the job the right way, and I'm going to be fair about it, and everybody is going to benefit from having a sheriff like me in there, not just a particular group. A lot of people run for office and people will support certain individuals for office because they expect something in return. Well, I believe that everybody in Cameron County deserves something in return, and that's fair and consistent law enforcement, and someone that will represent everyone, not according to their financial status or their political status in the community or how well they're known. We need someone that will appoint people to administrative positions and law enforcement positions based on qualifications and experience, not based on who they know or who they're related to. I know that might offend some people, but I believe more people and morale would be picked up, would be encouraged and enthused to participate in working in law enforcement if they felt like they could really promote and accomplish something. Because nobody wants to just stay where they're at and become stagnant. They want to promote. But if there's no hope of promoting unless you become socially involved with someone, then that kills morale, and we shouldn't have that. I am running against Omar Lucio. I'm sure most of y'all do know who he is. He's been the sheriff here for quite some time. And I have nothing bad to say about the man personally. I'm not running against him as an individual. I'm running against the way he operates the sheriff's office. He has an administrative staff that he's pretty well lost control of. They run the sheriff's office, not the sheriff, and that's not the way it should be. The sheriff needs to be in control of his officers. There's nothing wrong with going to a bar, obviously, to have a drink and have a good time. But when you go to the bar in a sheriff's department vehicle and you get drunk and you take prescription medicine that you shouldn't be taking while you drive, and then you wreck that county vehicle, it shouldn't matter if you're the chief deputy or the sheriff's nephew or anybody like that. You should suffer the same consequences, and you should lead by example. In my administration, I will lead by example. You won't find me driving the county vehicle drunk. I won't wreck the county vehicle. I'll be responsible. My opponents have, in the past year and a half or so, they've attacked me. I don't know if y'all know about Carlos Costos, the county judge that's now the Secretary of State. My wife and I served on his campaign, and we served as recounters in the recount against John Woods. In the recount room, John Woods was winning. They were recounting the ballots. The only problem was, while we were in there, there was a whole section of ballots that weren't being recounted. And so when it was over, they came out and announced John Wood won. And I love John Wood to death. He's a great man. It's nothing against him. But what's right is right, and what's fair is fair. So I brought that to their attention. Well, they called in the Texas Rangers, and sure enough, there was a whole missing ballot box from the island that wasn't being counted, or Port Isabel, I believe. And that was just enough votes to turn the election around. I came out of the newspaper. Gilbert Gianos, the Democratic Party chair, knows who I am because I came on TV and spoke against that. It's not against the election judge at the time, Roger Ortiz, not against John Wood or Carlos Costos. What's right was right. Well, since then, I have faced a lot of public retaliation from those people in power. And that's part of what we need to stop. So I'm not only here to represent you, I'm here to represent all of to stand for you, but stand against the corruption that is so prevalent here in this county. So I ask for your support. I feel glad to answer any questions. We have a long ways to go. I've got to get known throughout the county. People in Los Fresnos know who I am. People in my little town know who I am. But I need your help to become better acquainted with the people throughout the county. And I am running as a Republican, but I have an opponent in the Republican primary that I must defeat. My opponent in the primary is part of that same clique. He worked for the same people that I spoke about. And so by electing someone like that, you're not really getting an infusion of new blood. It's pretty much the same person, just saying it a different way. So I'd be glad to answer any questions. I do need y'all's help. I need y'all to remember who I am coming March and again in November of next year. And with that, I open the floor for any questions that y'all may have for me. A question was asked me earlier, or a statement was made about how when a new administration takes office, they come in and they bring in their friends, and that's some of the things that we've talked about. They bring in somebody younger or prettier or someone that helped them do this or that, and they just kick the experienced people to the curb. Well, that destroys morale. That really does hurt the teamwork that you depend on in the sheriff's office. I've been asked what would I do different as a sheriff, or what would I, and one thing I would push for is getting the deputies out of their police cars and take off their glasses, roll their windows down, get out of the cars, and start interacting with the public. Because so many times we only meet law enforcement when it's in a negative sense, when they're writing you a ticket or you call them for some reason. You shouldn't have to call the police. They should be there when you need them. And you need them when you're outside having a barbecue and they drive by. They need to get out and speak to you, see how things are going. You know, let's see if they can help anyway. If they have a flat tire, you don't drive by people there. You help people. The community involvement needs to improve in all aspects. I don't see the sheriff's department getting out and interacting with the public very often. And that's something that I would do, is make sure the deputies, that you know your deputy in your area, and you know how to, you know when you call, they're going to respond. You already have some type of rapport built. Children, you know, one advantage I have is I've worked in small towns. Now I know this is a big county and I'll be leading a big county, and I'll have good administrators working for me that have that experience from working in big counties. But coming from a small town, you learn to rely on yourself. You learn that you're the officer, you're the chief, you're doing the call, your backup is 20 or 30 minutes away. Whenever you're your own officer, you don't get gung-ho and just demand things. You learn to work with people. A lot of that I learned working in the prison system. But you learn to diffuse situations because you're outnumbered. You can't go out there and pick a fight in the neighborhood. You have to learn to calm them down. You find out who's leading it, and you take them off to their side, because you never confront someone in a crowd. You bring them off to alone where they lose that support, and then they'll talk to you, and then you ask that person to help you calm the situation. That's how you handle that, and that's not being done now. And that would be done different because, as I said, I come from a small town where I interact with the public. I knew everybody in my town. When a burglary happened, I could figure out who did it, because people don't just wake up when they become burglars. It's usually somebody new to town or someone who's gone through some drastic change in their life that's caused them to do these certain things. So with that, I think I have an advantage of bringing community policing back to the county, while at the same time utilizing new technology and new resources. There hasn't been enough effort put into obtaining needed equipment that would keep us up with the rest of the state, for that matter. Even Hidalgo County, you know, every officer there pretty much has body cameras. We don't even have that here. Body cameras keep the honest people honest, and that's something I wanted to touch on too. I was thinking about today. You know, we wear our bulletproof vests, we have our guns. All that's reactionary, and a bullet will hurt, a bullet will kill you. But most of the attacks on police officers that are violent in nature, the wounds heal, they go away. But when you suffer from an unjust or a lie, those wounds, your reputation can be tarnished for the rest of your career, and you lose your effectiveness as a police officer. So you need the body cameras to protect the public, but also to protect you against false allegations that could ruin your career. So I think technology is going to be very important to improve in Cameron County. I know I said open the floor earlier, so I open it again for if anybody has any other questions.
Kurt,
Yes.
you get elected, are you getting clean house and rent everybody out in our brand time?
Well, you can't get rid of everybody. You gotta, but the administration, yes, there'll be a total new administration.
Walkie talk,
Yes.
all fire.
Your administration should represent you. You know, the type of person I am, that's what I look for in my administrators. My chief investigator will be someone that has many years' experience in investigations, working probably with the federal government. I have some people in mind, but I can't say who they are until I'm elected. But I have some good quality people that I'll bring on board. Chief deputy. My chief deputy will be someone that knows all the county's players and knows how to interact with the county and has dealt with the county and politicians and city officials throughout the county. But yes, we will clean house. You're not going to have the corruption. You're not, you know, bad apple spoils the bunch, and so we have to get rid of the bad apples.
Isn't there a age limit, like? Well, I don't want to say anything, but
I'm with you.
he's to me, I think he's like old to be there. You know who I'm talking about too. So.
Right, I understand.
You can say it.
And I
Yes.
I hope when I'm his age, I'm still going as well. But I also know that comes a time that you have to let someone who's got the energy.
You gotta step down, exactly.
Right, you gotta step down.
Yes.
And doesn't mean you can't serve the public in a different capacity. You know, the man has years and years of experience.
Yes.
You know, and
But he doesn't think about the county until election is coming. Then he'll come like, oh, hi, how you doing? And he's saying hi to everybody because he's already running again.
Right, and that is status quo for many politicians, and that's what's going to change with me. I'm the same today as I've always been. I didn't just wake up one day and decide I wanted to be a nice person and go out and shake hands with everybody. I've led that way. Everybody who knows me knows this is who I am, and so now I need to let everybody else have a chance to get to know who I am and what I'm like. But yes, it's time for some of them to step down.
Step down, exactly. Yes, it is.
So, you mentioned that our sheriff right now has his clique. So then basically what you're saying is if you're elected and you become our sheriff, you are gonna make your own clique?
No, I'm not gonna make a clique. The people that's a very good point, and that's kind of what I've spoken about in the past.
He wants to stop corruption. That's what
Right,
he
we
said.
want to stop corruption. I'll have an internal affairs department. But I also believe that we need to have a citizens oversight. We need input from the outside. People, and I know this happens all the time, deal with inmates, deal with the public, other co-workers. Everybody puts this facade in front of the boss. They act a certain way in front of the boss.
Yes.
But you need to see how that person's acting when you're not around. And sometimes the public see things that you might not see. I've dealt with that, you know, my wife and I own a security company as well, and we've dealt with that with our staff. There's been many occasions I should have listened to other coworkers and other employees when they mentioned to me about certain things. And sometimes if you like someone real well, you put the blinders on, which is exactly the case that's happening now in the sheriff's office. Just because he likes somebody, he doesn't look at what's going on. That will be different. We'll definitely have people, a recruiting process. I have several people in mind, but no, it's not going to be a clique where I'm not afraid to discipline them or replace them. What needs to be done for the county is what's best. You know, we need to look at this.
And the same goes for you.
Exactly. The same goes for me. Exactly. Like I said, you must lead for example, and everybody says, well, if you don't like it, you can vote out in 4 years. Well, you can't wait 4 years for if you have a bad sheriff, he can destroy the county in no time. We don't need that. I'm not doing this for power, prestige, or the money. I'm doing this because I'm a family man. I have 4 children. My wife has 4 children. We raised our kids. My daughter's sitting here. My son runs our security company. My wife, we're all involved in the business. But we all live in this community, and the decisions that our leaders are making affect us all, believe it or not. They affect us more profoundly than what we realize. And so I'm doing this because not only for myself, because I genuinely want to make the community better, and I want to one day live on in people's memory as being a good sheriff.